How do you filter companies out? What makes the cut?
Great. Well, thanks for having me. So just by way of background, we are an index company, and we created the first robotics and automation index nearly 4 years ago with the hope and anticipation that robotics and AI were going to be transformational technologies that would change the world. At the time, a lot of these companies that existed weren't very well or recognized by Wall Street. In fact, a lot of these companies were small parts of some companies' businesses and really weren't identified. And so we actually created the first sort of proprietary classification system to define them. So we defined a company as either a technology or an application. So the technology is what makes the robot work. It's the processing, the computing, the sensing, the actuation capabilities.
Yeah, because I can,
the applications.
Bill, I'm sorry to jump in. I can understand one of your top holdings, Intuitive Surgical. They make literally robots that help surgeons do very precise surgery. But you've got Rockwell Automation. They make cockpit controls for airplanes. Why is Rockwell Automation in there and so high?
Well, Rockwell is actually one of the largest discrete automation companies in the world. And the way we define a company as a top holding, we have only a two-position weighting structure. We have what's called a bellwether as a 2% weighting, which is 40% of the portfolio, and the other 60% of the portfolio is non-bellwether, 1% weighting. So to become a bellwether, or in this case for Rockwell, you have to have on average between 60 and 70% of your revenue that comes directly from robotics and automation. So this is revenue that's generated from selling the technology. So this is different than where Amazon, obviously they use the technology to enable their business arguably a lot better than most companies, but they're not making money from selling the technologies.
So how are the individual securities, maybe you just said it and it went over my head, but how are they weighted within the portfolio, and how often do companies drop out and get added in based on the idea that they may no longer make some weighting cut?
Right. So we rebalance the portfolio quarterly. And again, to go in the portfolio, a company has to have a minimum revenue threshold that corresponds to robotics and automation. So we only have a two-weight structure. We designed this index to be simple and transparent, recognizing that the obvious winners and losers are not very apparent.
But Bill, did I understand your description earlier? It sounded to me like there's no single stock that could ever be more than 2%, unless, of course, it grows bigger than that within it. But the initial weighting can never be more than 2%, and then the others are no more than 1%. That's
correct. And it rebalances quarterly. So we're basically buying the stocks as they go down. We're selling them as they go up.
Why isn't Amazon in there?
In our judgment, Amazon is a consumer products retailing company, right? They obviously use robotics and automation to enable their business, but they're not making money from selling the actual technologies. So we've created this index to capture the companies that are selling the technologies that are supporting robotics and automation.
How do you get a real big bang for your buck if you only got 1% or 2%?
Well, again, we think it's the best approach to this is the index approach. And looking out the next 3 to 4 years, it's very hard to pick out what we think are going to be obvious winners and losers. Amazon, 5, 10, 15 years ago, was a much different company than it is now. It's evolved significantly. You guys have covered NVIDIA quite a bit, right? NVIDIA has kind of morphed pretty dramatically from being kind of a gaming GPU technology only kind of 12, 18 months ago now to kind of a pure play AI company, if you will. Okay. So a lot of these technologies, I think, are hard to identify, and we really are in the early days of this growth opportunity. And we think the best approach is to be invested across the entire ecosystem or value chain of companies that supports this.
Hey there, thanks for checking out CNBC on YouTube. Be sure to subscribe to stay up to date on all of the day's biggest stories. You can also click on any of the videos around me to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.